Twitter has begun removing fake Twitter accounts purporting to be black supporters of Donald Trump. It was pretty easy to locate them, it turns out, because let's see, we have more than a dozen accounts using identical language, like the phrase in all caps, "Yes, I'm black and I'm voting for Trump" with 3 exclamation points. So generally, when the same accounts are tweeting the exact same thing at the exact same time, that's usually a pretty good sign that it's not real. Many of the suspended accounts are using stolen images, either stock footage or potentially the faces of military members, members of law enforcement, literally soldiers that have died recently. They'll steal those photos. You have ones like this from Caleb Littleford, #BlacksForTrump, saying, "Leaving the Democratic Party has been on my mind for a few weeks now." No, it hasn't, because you don't have a mind because you're a bot. But he goes on to say, not happy with what they've been standing for. And it seems like they just want to use black folks for their votes. Is there room on the Trump train? Can I get some retweets and follows? I follow back. And why shouldn't you? Because you're a program. That got 10,000 retweets, despite the fact that that's not a real person. That was a stolen photo that a likely white bot manager put out there to pretend that there's organic black support for Donald Trump. We've got more, but JR, what do you think?
Yeah, I was just gonna, before this story came out, just like a day or two ago, I was just wondering, because I tumbled down a rabbit hole when I was looking into one of Donald Trump's tweets. And then, you have the normal folks who were the first ones to criticize him. And then as you go further and further down, you start getting to the supporters. Then you stumble yourself into a side conversation, and then the third side conversation, and the fourth side conversation. Here's all these folks. And I was like, man, the ridiculousness of some of these tweets and the regularity of the things that you can predict that they'll say is just blatant. I was like, who? And then you get some of these, and it's like you said, 10,000 retweets. I was like, there's no way 10,000 people looked at that and said, "Oh, that's a great tweet. It's so original. I hadn't thought of that." And I was like, who watches this stuff? Who looks into it? Who thinks this is real? Who thinks a black person who has any kind of self-respect tweets something that says #BlacksForTrump? Black folks that care about themselves don't call themselves blacks for Trump. It's just it's too generic of a statement that's been put together by someone else who's controlling you, and it's inauthentic. I mean, I'm not saying there's no black people that support Republicans. It's just they don't talk like that. It's a weird thing, and the ones that do publicly talk like that are being paid to talk like that. It's just not the way a normal human being talks when they're saying they're representing who they are.
Yeah. There are black individuals that support Donald Trump. There are black individuals who are Republicans even before Donald Trump. There are black grifters who are, whether they organically actually like him or not, are using that to make names for themselves. And in terms of the retweets of things like this, I don't doubt that quite a bit of that was probably real, because there's a lot of Republicans that definitely don't want Donald Trump to do anything, whatever it might be, that would be required to get more black Americans to support him, whatever that policy change would be. They don't want that. And generally, they have no interest in that community whatsoever. But they do like the idea that Trump, being who Trump is, hating who he hates, all of that, would still end up getting some of that support. And so that's why some of these grifters get the spread that they do, because a lot of white Trump supporters who have no love whatsoever for black Americans still want the idea that it's not just white people that like him. So they'll retweet this, sure. They'll retweet him, and they'll retweet something that Candace Owens said or something like that, and feel like, hey, I'm not that bigoted after all, because I retweeted Caleb Littleford, even though Caleb Littleford is, I don't know, some guy named Glenn, some white guy, I don't know.
They're useful, and when you're useful, that's you get paid to be useful. Or once you can't get enough useful people to jump on board because you need larger numbers, you just make them up. So again, it goes back to the same thing. Whenever political figures or even pundits talk about the inorganic nature of democratic uprisings or these protests and all this stuff, they buzz people in, they pay them. It's exactly the playbook that they go off of, and we've seen it countless times. And no matter how many times you see it, they'll just keep doing it because they actually don't care about the people who are smart enough to identify this. They care about the people who aren't smart enough to identify it, and they go and spot all this. Look at all this support for Trump. Did you know there's people on boats? Forget the polls. There's boats. Like, these are the examples that they're giving. Another example they're giving are Blacks for Trump on Twitter, which isn't a real thing.
Well, and I mean, there was that Saturday event at the White House that had a bunch of Black Trump supporters that was there, and Candace Owens was involved in it. And it turned out that they had been paying people to fly in, like covering their travel expenses, which, by the way, I don't have as big of a problem with that as some. You can do that. That doesn't mean that those people don't like Donald Trump. But think about what it means, though. That in Washington, D.C., how many millions of people live inside of a 45-minute drive of D.C.? They had to fly people in because they couldn't find a crowd of 200 black people in Washington, D.C. that like the president. So they can do it if they want, but we get to acknowledge what it means that they had to. And so anyway, I'm glad that that Twitter is doing this. If they could find I understand that the techniques that these bot farms use continues to change and everything, but it's just so much of Twitter is so fake and so manipulated. They've got to get better at it. I mean, this lasted for so long. I don't know, we'll see.
If minimal effort gets you maximum results, why would you add to your effort?
Yeah, I guess they're doing fine without taking it more seriously. Maybe they don't need to take it more seriously.
Check out the Damage Report podcast each day, wherever you get your podcasts, whether Pocket Casts or Stitcher or iTunes. You can join me as I give you the news and stories you want, with a range of co-hosts and interview guests jumping in on the fun each day. Again, that's the Damage Report, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you get them at iTunes, don't forget to rate and review. Sometimes I'll read them live on the show.